Boston, 1919. A man is walking down a normal street in the North End. He hears a low rumbling. He turns around. The next thing he sees, almost no historian on Earth would believe, if it were not extensively documented. What he sees is a wave, 25 feet tall, moving at 35 miles an hour. The wave is brown. The Great Molasses Flood. Before we get to the wave, we need to talk about the tank. The tank was built by a company called the Purity Distilling Company. They made industrial alcohol. The tank held 2.3 million gallons of molasses, which they fermented into rum and ammunition. The tank was 50 feet tall. The circumference was 240 feet. It was made of steel, riveted together, painted brown. It was, by far, the largest thing in the neighborhood. Here is detail 1 that you will want to remember. The tank was built fast. Why fast? Because Prohibition was coming. Starting in January 1920, you could not legally make alcohol in this country anymore. Purity wanted as much rum out the door as possible. Detail 2. Nobody on the project was qualified. The man supervising the tank construction had no engineering degree. He could not read structural blueprints. The plans were not reviewed by an engineer. They were not stress tested. They were not approved by anyone whose job it was to approve them. Detail 3. From the day the tank was filled, it leaked. Visibly. The local children would walk past it with cups and collect free molasses. The company had a solution to this problem. They painted the tank brown so the leaks would not be visible from the outside. Yes, they painted it the color of molasses so you could not see the molasses leaking out of it. This is in the official testimony. This is not a joke. This was the company's risk management strategy. January 15th, 1919. It is an unusually warm January in Boston. The previous day was very cold. Today is 40 degrees. This is a problem, because the tank is full, and warm molasses ferments faster than cold molasses. Fermentation produces gas. Gas, in a closed steel tank with weak rivets, produces pressure. At 12:30 in the afternoon, workers in the area report a sound described as machine gun fire. That was the rivets popping, one by one, along the side of the tank. And then the entire side of the tank gave way at once. The wave, 2.3 million gallons of molasses pour into the streets. The wave is 25 feet tall at its peak. It is moving at 35 miles an hour. For context, that is roughly the speed of a city bus. Brown, sticky, heavier than water. It hits the firehouse. The firehouse moves, off its foundation. The wave hits the elevated train tracks. The tracks bend. The train, which was on the tracks, was lifted and dropped. There was a fully grown horse. The horse did not survive. 21 people lost their lives. 150 more were injured. Most of the injured had been hit by debris. The rivets, when they popped off the tank, traveled through the air at very high speeds, like bullets, made of distillery. The cleanup. Cleaning up 2 million gallons of cooling industrial molasses turns out to be hard. The Boston Fire Department tried fresh water. That spread the molasses around and made everything worse. Eventually, they tried salt water from the harbor. That worked, sort of. The cleanup officially took weeks, but the harbor stayed brown for months. People who lived through the flood reported that on hot summer days for the next 40 years, the streets in the North End still smelled faintly like molasses. And then, the lawsuit. 119 plaintiffs filed a class action against Purity Distilling. The case is sometimes considered the first modern class action in American legal history. The trial took 6 years. The company's defense was, and we are not making this up, anarchists must have bombed the tank. The court appointed an auditor named Hugh Ogden to evaluate the evidence. Ogden was an actual engineer. Ogden looked at the tank design, the building practices, the leaks, the painted-over rust, and concluded the tank had failed because the company built a tank that could not hold what they put in it. The court ordered the company to pay $628,000 in damages. In 1925 money, that is roughly $10 million today. The company eventually went out of business. The land where the tank stood became a baseball field. Why? This still matters. Before this case, in most American states, you did not need a licensed engineer to sign off on a major industrial structure. You just needed someone to say it would be fine. Within 15 years of the verdict, almost every state had passed laws requiring an actual engineer with an actual license to stamp the plans. If you've ever seen the embossed seal on a building permit, the round one with the engineer's name and license number, you can thank a tank of fermenting molasses for that. The most important regulatory advance in American structural engineering came from a lake of desert. So in simple terms, a poorly built tank of fermenting molasses that the company knew was leaking and painted brown to hide the rust Ruptured on a warm afternoon in 1919, killed 21 people, smelled for 40 years, and accidentally invented modern building safety. Hit subscribe if you would like more disasters that sound made up but are extensively documented. Or do not. The tank cannot reach you here.